Welcome to Club Damingo, brought to you by Cyclone Comics.
So this short film, the Greener Pastures short film, is really a proof of concept to show um, tone um, and kind of interaction between a Minotaur character and humans, um, but also to show that an audience in like 15 minutes or less will become emotionally involved with a Minotaur.
So, Tim, apparently there's a Greener Pastures film being made.
Apparently.
Apparently. So, there's some stuff that you're going to announce, of course, in due course, in all good time. But what can you tell us about the film so far, the process, the origins of it, and how it came to be before we start getting bombarded with promotional photos and short teasers and all that kind of stuff? What can you tell us about the project?
Um, so, as a really big question. So people will get bored of my voice. So please do interrupt me with with commentary or side questions as I go. I have that habit of just rattling on for ages. Um, so you're basically asking why a Greener Pastures short film, I guess.
Yeah, whose idea was it first, and what is it set to achieve? This short film, what would you like it to achieve?
Whose idea it was is hard to know because I've been if I say it was mine, I'd probably only be half right because Michael, who's the co-creator of Green Pastures, would also have at some point just thought to himself, we should be trying to get um, either a film or a TV show adaptation of the comic, right? Um, but there was a point. There was a point when I was, but so Michael's office, Michael works as a lawyer, and his office is down at Barangaroo here in Sydney. And I don't even know how many years ago. I could look it up because it's on a piece of artwork. But I was waiting downstairs in this lovely area at Barangaroo, which is on Darling Harbour or the water that leads up to Darling Harbour. It's lovely. But I was looking at the buildings and I was looking at the people, and an image came to me of Trevor with all of these suited people, suits and briefcases and whatnot. And I sketched out two thumbnails in my sketchbook while I was waiting for it. And that turned into a full color image, which I've printed in a couple of different places and put online a couple of times. And that was the first time I said to myself, I can absolutely see Greener Pastures being a, a live action piece instead of
Right.
an animated piece. Up until then, years and years ago, I've still got the files where I started to write out um, a, a, what do you call it, like for animation, like not an application, but a pitch for animating. It's just years, a long time ago. So it's always been in the back of our minds, and I've always thought it can only be uh, animated. And I worry about with animation, is it going to be for is it going to be looked at as if it's for kids when it really needs to be very much for adults?
Right. Okay.
Anyway, that was the first time I really, like, in my mind, I was going, oh my God, I can just see this being live action.
Right.
And um,
That's a pretty big shift.
yeah, I'm not really sure why that shift happened. It could possibly be because the, the script for the comic, or what I refer to as the end, which is quite a few issues worth of the end, um, uh, is Trevor at our age, right? In his middle age, and
Phew. Glad you said middle age.
yeah, very much an adult kind of um, setting for him. He's got a job and he's what are his relationships with his friends and his romantic relationships and his parents at that age is what the setting is at that point, right? So I don't know if that was part of the shift, um, but so that's one aspect. The other aspect is when I worked on Happy Feet 2 in storyboards and in the art department, we tried to make this little unit in the art department with rapid prototyping, where we would come up with an idea and we would try to get it made quickly and then show it, in really quick succession, which is not how it usually works. Normally, it has to go on to the 3D department and get modeled and blah blah blah. So what we had was a young 3D guy like embedded in our department so that we could do this rapid prototyping. And his name is Nick Kachevsky, and we became very good friends. And this is like 15 years ago or so, and we're still friends now. And he was quite young then, and now he's a filmmaker in his own right. He's made a few features, lots of shorts, lots of advertising. Worked in the business in lots of different ways, but he also ended up moving in literally across the road from where I live now. So not quite across the road, but if I stood on the footpath, I could actually throw rocks into his courtyard. He lived that close, so we got even closer. And there was one point when my wife Anne Marie said, "You two should do something together." So that's a closer genesis to what is happening now. She said, "The two of you should do something together. The two of you should make a Greener Pastures movie or something, or some other movie or something." So we actually started to seriously look at making a proof of concept. It was really the first idea. A proof of concept is something that you make to prove that the concept works so that you can make something else. So what's the something else? Well, what we'd really like is a feature film or a ongoing television series, right? So this short film, the Greener Pastures short film, is really a proof of concept to show tone and kind of interaction between a Minotaur character and humans, but also to show that an audience in like 15 minutes or less will become emotionally involved with a Minotaur, and hopefully, have people going, "Wow, can I see more of this?" So it is a proof of concept, which turns a lot of people off, because it often means that all you're doing is trying to throw some things at the screen to show people what it might look like, and then get out. And the three of us, Michael, Nick, and I. So Michael as co-creator of Greener Pastures, Nick as writer-director of the short film, or co-writer and director of the short film, and I were adamant that we would make a short film that worked as a short film, worked as a short story, because we understand, other than like if we do a premiere here in Sydney, where a lot of our friends will hopefully come, almost no one else who ever sees the short film will have any idea of who the characters are.
Right.
So
it has to work on its own.
Yeah, it needed to be able to be seen with no prior knowledge and no feeling like it's a cliffhanger or something else. It had to feel like there was a story told. Right. And yet we also wanted to make sure it felt like audiences would go, "I wish there was more of that. I'd love to see what happens with Trevor now." Right.
Yeah.
And it took a really long time to write a script that worked like that.
I was going to say, from what you were telling me over the years, that there's the script and the ideas behind even the short film, while still trying to keep it based on the comic book, went through so many changes.
Yeah, in my filing system on the Mac here, I've got 9 pretty discrete folders worth of drafts. Right. And it's interesting looking at what we ended up with, how close it actually is to one of the first things that we came.
Really? Yeah.
But it moved around an awful lot, in lots of different ways, for lots of different reasons. And writing for film is different to writing for comic books, and so there were quite a few challenges to get that to work. But in the end,
how involved were you and Michael in that process? Beyond the vetting stage, were you intrinsically involved in that creative writing aspect?
Michael wrote most of the first runs at any of these new versions of the script. And as I said, writing for film is different to writing for page. And Nick has a really amazing brain in that he can see what this is going to look like, and he knows what needs to be changed just from the script. which was a difficult thing for Mike and I to come to terms with because Mike's writing is pretty dialogue heavy a lot of the time, and I act as director when I'm drawing it, So to give a lot of that over to Nick could be challenging at times. There was a lot of times where I had to say to myself, we've just got to trust the guy who knows how to make this medium of film. And I had to also say that to Michael a lot, and I'm sure Michael had to say that to himself a lot. And, involving that third person, we really did need to really trust a lot in the process and each other. And so let's talk about what the changes were, because it's not Greener Pastures, the comic. It really is not. Somebody online wrote to me and said, I can absolutely see issue 1 of Greener Pastures making an amazing short film, which it would, it'd be cool. But that's not what we've made. We've taken the idea of Trevor in that middle age era, so the older Trevor, and kind of just tried to figure out how does he feel now about where he is and leaving the farm, and what it would be like if he had to go back to the farm. What would that evoke in him emotionally? So that's pretty much the gist of the story.
Right.
We wanted to involve other characters if we could. So it's a 4-character piece really. So Trevor, and the farmer when Trevor leaves the farm in the comic, the farmer's Russell. We've got a new character who's the boss at where Trevor works. And we've also got Colin from the comic. And Colin from the comic is no longer Colin. Colin is now Colleen. And that was a huge breakthrough the day that we came up with that. I really wish I could remember which of the 3 of us came up with it, because that was a pretty intense little conversation we were having, that we needed more female energy, and not just to tick a box, but because tonally it was so heavy in one direction, and it needed something else. And somebody said, what if Colin was Colleen? And I know 2 of us were really happy to run with that, and Michael was not so happy.
I can only imagine that there was the comic creators going, it's not the comic, it's not the comic, not the comic, I'm pulling over in this way. And the director and the film side of people are going, yeah, but this would be better for the movie. This would be better for the movie. But it's not the comic would be such a hard thing to try and let go of.
Yeah. So I'll get back to who Colleen is in a second, but this is a proof of concept. When we get, that's nice. That's self-actualization, right? When we get to the point that we're making a television show, let's hope that actually happens, then it's going to be much closer to the comic. It's not going to be like the short film. We're going to try to start at the beginning and actually start with a very young, like the younger Trevor, which is like he is in the first, 9 to 12 issues of the comic. So those kind of changes won't be so dramatic, I don't think. So Michael was probably the least happy with the idea of changing Colin to Colleen, because Colin is a really important part of the story for him, not just a foil for Trevor, but like an equal partner as we go forward. Like they're really important together. But by the time I think we had this meeting in a pub somewhere at lunchtime, and by the time I was walking Michael back to his office, by the time we got back, he was going. By the time we got back, he was saying, I wish we had thought of this when we did the first time we introduced Colin, because as to have that female protagonist or antagonist, opposite number for Trevor probably would have been a much better idea. But, we were in our early 20s, mid-20s when we first, we were just writing ourselves and our friends and our environments. So there was other conflations as well. When you see the film, the character of Russell, it's not the same Russell as in the comic. We really ran with that to try to make him as interesting a character as possible. When Colleen is not really Colin either, because Colin is completely separate to Trevor's early life. But in this, Colleen is someone who's attached to the farm, and et cetera, et cetera. So there are other conflations that we had to do just to make sure that we could get the right tone and progression of story and character arc for everybody involved.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing that would have played a huge overshadowing role in decisions being made about this is how to present Trevor.
Yes. So Nick has made another short film, which is called Mongrel. You probably find it on Vimeo somewhere, where the character is one of the two characters is a genetically engineered pigman. So that was a prosthetic as well. So Nick has worked with these guys who made that prosthetic, these guys being another fellow named Nick and Paul from Makeup Effects Group here in Sydney. And we decided that prosthetic was probably the best way to go so that we could get the acting through having a real actor. On top of that, if we tried to do a 3D model and then animate the 3D model, like that would have just been so out of the question budget-wise.
Right.
The prosthetic is extraordinarily expensive. It's probably half the budget was on the prosthetic alone.
Wow.
They're mostly not reusable in that we had a 2-day shoot, so that's 2 sets of prosthetics, because once you remove the face part of it, that goes in the bin, or actually in a box up there.
Oh, right.
If they could remove it carefully enough that maybe I could keep it.
Wow, exciting.
I have a bust of Trevor in my house. And then they're going, no, it gets removed all apart. So at least I've got the upper face part. Yeah. So the cowl, which comes down to about here, and this whole head with a window for the face, that was used for both days. But everything else, there was 2 sets made. Right. And it's extremely expensive. And they're award-winning makeup effects people.
Yeah, I was going to say Australians, special effects and makeup people are some of the best in the world. So if you were to get a professional prosthetics company, chances are they're going to be of a very high standard.
So they, not at the last actors, AACTA Actor Awards, but the year before, they won the award for makeup and effects for Talk to Me. Is that the name of the horror movie?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And they were up for another award this year as well. So they're incredible. They did The Matrix. They did the Swamp Thing, that Swamp Thing from the 90s, and all sorts of things. It's incredible. Maybe in another chat, I'll talk to you about our first meeting with them, because otherwise I'll be here for half an hour just talking about that.
But right across the board, the level of acting profile, special effects profile, production profile is so amazingly high. And is that due mainly to Nick's connections and influence on the project?
100%. we had good fortune in all sorts of places, right? But one of the good fortunes is that Nick makes these kind of short films, and he keeps on saying this term, and he's right. His superpower is to take whatever money somebody gives him and makes it look like we've spent 2 to 3 times that amount of money. Of course, he's able to bring in a team who are super excited about whatever it is that Nick's involved with, and will work at the mates rates level or less, just to make sure that this film gets made, and just to make sure that they're in on this amazing project, whatever it is. And at one point, because Nick's Australian, at one point his overseas management had one other Australian on their management books, and that was a woman named Maya Mitchell, who's a really amazing actor, and I was always trying to get them to be in a meeting together, because it's the 2 Australians, right? They probably should talk to each other, and they never really did, but they heard each other's names. So when we were talking about this, Nick said, "I'm gonna hit up Maya, because Maya's made some really great stuff. She's in 150 episodes of a couple of American television shows. My kids keep on talking about the kids show she was in when she was 11 years old. And at the moment, she's shooting the second season of The Artful Dodger. So, like, proper, like, A-grade actress. It's not
Yeah,
like we've
yeah,
a bunch
yeah.
of acting students to be in our short film. And just to carry on with that, we've got Jeff Morrell.
Now, one of my Australian TV and movie heroes, Jeff Morrell. I mean, you can say the rest of the cast, and you got me with Jeff Morrell because he's absolutely amazing. I love his stuff.
He was
Grassroots
in,
is one of my favorite TV shows.
yeah, he was incredible. And when I was talking to when we were talking about this early on about casting, I'm kind of going, well, it's important that we get good actors, but is it that important? But being on set and seeing what they bring, it's like it's incredible, and they all loved it. Matt Backer plays the boss. He really made that his own and had such great fun on the day, and Alistair Bates plays Trevor, so he's
Oh,
behind.
yeah.
Probably the name that's least well known, but he was incredible, and he was in the chair getting the makeup applied from about 4 a.m. And that lasted for 2 to 4 hours, and then the day that we shot on a farm, he was then in a car made up for an hour and a half before he could.
It's amazing.
He had a great time and really loved it. It was like all of that was amazing. So I was talking about the good fortune of Nick knowing Maya, and when you get someone like Maya to sign a contract, and then you say, so who can we get for the other three parts? People are much more likely to come on board. So that is part of the reason why you end up getting such a great cast, and they're all amazing. And every time I spoke to any of them, any of the four of them, and almost anyone on set, the gaffer, the camera operator, like the the AD, the second AD, or any of them, I'd say, I really appreciate you here, and this is amazing, and thanks for you. They said, oh, when Nick showed us the script, I read the script. It's an amazing story. I couldn't say no to it. So the script was really integral to bringing this amazing team as well, because they all said, I can't turn this down. 2 day shoot, 2 weekends, 1 day in each weekend. It's not a huge time for the on-set people. So they're all going, absolutely. But then, Michael works at Barangaroo in one of the tallest buildings there, and until that guy built the new Crown building, it was the tallest building there. So we had these amazing shots in there. Michael was able to get us to have permission to shoot in the offices there. So Trevor in the comic is a lawyer. In the film, he's going to be a banker, just so that we could mesh it in with the issues on the farm that he has to deal with a little bit better.
Yeah.
So he's a banker, but he's in this amazing, high rise. We've got the Sydney Opera House and the Harbour Bridge in the background, and skylines for miles, and it's just incredible. So again, like if Michael was, working in, a nice building, but in North Sydney with other buildings around it, we wouldn't have had that either.
Right.
And the fact that I knew Nick in the first place, is good fortune. So all of this is coming into just falling into place. We asked Maya Mitchell to play Colleen, and she said, when is the shoot date? And we told her, and she said, I'm starting shooting The Artful Dodger season 2 the next week, so Monday week after that. This would be an awesome warm up for me to go and do 2 days shooting on something like this before into like this really, full on, I don't know how many weeks or months it is that she's going to be shooting that. She said, so that'll be a good warm up because I haven't been on a set for a little while. So yes, let's do it. So it's like that specific timing. If we were shooting 2 weeks later or a month earlier, she possibly would have said, no, I can't do it. And we would have had to find somebody else. All of this amazing fortune. So, yeah.
Two things from that. What was it like as the co-creator of the strip, being on set initially that first day, and the whole experience across those couple of shooting days, and particularly the second shooting day on the farm? How many changes were made, or what was the flexibility allowed actually on the day of shooting?
Let's tackle that second one first. So Nick is really this guerrilla filmmaker. Like I said, he makes whatever you've got look like you spent 2 to 3 times as much. And part of that is because we're shooting. From what I've been told, you normally shoot 2 scenes on a day, right? And we shot 5, maybe 6, because some of them are tiny, on both of the days. And everyone's going, I cannot believe what we shot. So we shot a ridiculous amount of stuff. And even so, we didn't get to shoot everything that we wanted to shoot. So Nick is like, you look at his eyes during the shoot and you can see he's constantly looking at things in his own brain going, how am I going to get the 2 scenes I wanted to shoot that were quite separate into one shot instead, because we're not going to have the time to shoot more than one. So on the farm, rain was coming. In the office block, we were definitely heading into overtime. So both of those were very time constraint related. So even though I had read the script a million times, on the day, I wasn't even really seeing the changes happen. And Nick would say, you realize that we shot those 2 things as one? I'm going, oh, yeah, we did. So, we had to do that. But this is the nature of filmmaking at this level. If we were a feature film with 6 months to shoot, then you just come back the next day and keep shooting, right? But we just do not have that. So you take the script as the plan, you make your shot list and you've got your plan, and then you turn up on the day and you do what you can and allow yourself to change stuff as we go. And Nick's really good at that as well.
But the magic still has to be done in the editing room. It all comes together in the edit.
Then that's the next point is the editor will have to understanding what we're trying to achieve from the script, then see what he can make happen in the edit and make it better there as well. Everybody's job is to just make it better.
Do you have an editor, or is Nick editing it? Or
no, we've got an editor. Just about every position you can think of that you would have on a proper piece of work, we've got someone in. So we've got a proper color grader, we've got a proper editor, we've got a proper composer, all of that stuff. None of it is trying. We're not trying to make people do jobs that they're not really supposed to do. Nick, if he had to do editing, can do editing, but it's not his main job, right? An editor knows what they're doing, and the editor will do what they can do to make the film look as good as possible. And then he and Nick, play with that until we get to a final edit.
Right. Yeah.
Proper sound designer coming in, all of that.
Yeah. So what was it like as a comic book creator in Australia, being on set with the build-up being over with and the mornings arriving for those 2 days of shoots? What was it like for you and Michael?
Yeah, it was pretty weird. It's because I haven't met Alistair without the makeup on yet either. So
that's what he looks like.
That's right, poor guy. That guy is Trevor, as far as I'm concerned. And there was a few times because Alistair as Trevor was either on set acting or in a chair trying to keep himself from wanting to tear the face off himself, right? So it's not like I was talking to him a lot. Really needed to let him do his job and then rest. But the few times on day one, the few times when I was standing really close to him, I was going, I can't even tell what's prosthetic and what's not, whether it's just makeup and then there's prosthetic, like where does it start and finish?
Amazing.
And I don't think, look, Nick, who's a very good friend of mine, I think really wanted like this amazing reception out of me and Michael, and I think we were dumbfounded by it and or what to do, how to take it in, and I think I'm still in that position. It's like this is, and maybe it's because I've drawn him so many times. I'm going, well, here he is. This is fine. It's just like this is how it should be, kind of thing. Because on set on the farm day, I spent a bit more time with him, and took a lot more photos and. Okay, this is wild and surreal, but it actually feels very natural and comfortable for me. It's not like I'm just wetting my pants constantly because there's Trevor. It's like this feels
right. Yeah, the
Yeah.
natural progression. Yeah, we did this. This is what we wanted. We're getting to where we want to be.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if Nick was disappointed in that or not, because the first time we went to Makeup Effects Group to Meg, um, with to see the first of two iterations of the sculpt. They first do a clay sculpt. Um, Nick wanted to do a big reveal, and then wanted to see how we reacted, and again, it took like a good 20 minutes before I was really um, in sync with what I was looking at and understanding. Like, it wasn't like at any point where, wow, this is incredible. Oh my God. It was really kind of measured um, reaction from me and Michael, I think, as well, where we're just going, okay.
Because it's
This is,
not your drawings; it's an interpretation of your drawings, and also for the vagaries of making it for a film. There are not compromises, but just changes had to be made visually, I would imagine. And so, of what you're processing is, it's not my drawing. You're probably saying it's not my drawing.
and I was asking for changes and getting schooled by Nick and Paul and by Nick as well as to why we can't do that or shouldn't do that, or what the impact would be, and why what we've got is okay. But talk me through what you'd like to see done, and then when we come back in however long it was after that to see the second iteration.
Right.
So yeah, it was kind of weird. And let me tell you that seeing Trevor in real life um, is really different to seeing the shots that we've got. So photographs and the moving pictures, the rushes, etc., look incredibly more impressive than actually seeing him in real life. Like, it just
Interesting. Interesting.
so much better. It's the first time I've been on a set, and seeing the final product, and seeing the difference was a big surprise for me. And that's when I think I was getting even more excited when I was the movement and the framing and the look. The detail's pretty incredible on the prosthetic. Just going, yeah, this is really something. So the cinematography is incredible. We had a proper DOP. So Nick is the director, but he's not the director of photography. So the DOP, was amazing. And again, it's like, so the DOP then has a cameraman, right? So the DOP sometimes operates the camera, but you also have a cameraman who
Yeah, right.
and so it's like we had the complete setup.
Yeah.
And Nick's even then going, well, we don't have everybody we should have some other people, but we only ever pretty much had, no, not pretty much, we only ever had one camera operating at once, so we don't get coverage. So we had to run through scenes more than once so that we could get it from different angles, but we had a steady cam for both days, but we pretty much used it almost entirely on the farm day more than the office day.
Is there a person that has those coconuts that does the horse galloping noises for the farm scenes? What do you call those things?
Yeah, the sound effect guy, but yeah, they've got a particular name.
They do.
But that will be, I guess, the sound designer in this case, and he isn't on board yet. So, but Trevor, unfortunately, the one thing that we probably didn't do that, no, the one thing we didn't do that I probably was hoping we were going to do was little hoof feet, not little hoof feet, huge hoof feet. We talked about it, but at one stage that was just, there's no way we could do that with the money that we had. So yeah, there's no clip clopping hoofs.
Right. Monty Python-esque.
But he's got the cloven hoofed fingernails that I designed for the comic, and they're incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, all of that. And he's got, at different parts of the story, he's got sawn off horns and he's got full horns, just like in the comic book. So yeah, Meg were able to make it so that you can take horns off and put other horns back on for different shots. It's pretty cool.
That'll be the same with the action figure as well. You'll be able to, take the eventual action figure that'll happen. These little horns come off, come on. You can swap the feet from hoofs to boots, to work boots. Yes, indeed. Yeah, see? Yep, lovely.
This one broke took it on set. But yeah, I made this online quite a while ago, and my daughter's got a 3D printer, so Annabelle
Yeah,
printed it up for me.
beautiful.
That was
Yeah,
like,
lovely. So, as of today, which we're filming on the 3rd of March, what's the next stage? I was privileged enough to see some rough ideas for some posters that you are workshopping for, for the tease and for the actual movie itself proper, so, things like that. So there's all that stuff happening while the edits are getting itself sorted out. So you're doing a lot of promos and marketing and getting all that social media side of stuff happening. But when that is all done and the edit is done, what's going to happen? What's the plan?
I wish we had a social media person. So if anyone wants to be our social media person, let me know. Because we really should be releasing a lot more stuff. We've got honestly, we've probably got like 10,000 photos from the 2 days shoot. A lot of which we should be putting up now to kind of let people see the behind the scenes stuff in the lead up to releasing some more concrete stuff. But we just don't have the manpower to do it, unfortunately, the personnel to do it. But you're asking kind of what's next. So if you hadn't hit record for this little chat, I was going to share my screen and show you the teaser trailer, which is nearly ready to go.
Oh, well, we'll do that after the show when we're not recording.
So we've got a 30-second teaser ready to go. It needs all it needs is color and grading to it, which is not final grading because we just want to get a teaser done before we do the grading for the whole rest of it. But hopefully it'll be the same grading person who's going to do it, so we'll get a bit of an idea of color and grading. So cool little 30-second teaser ready to go. We've got a teaser poster ready to go, and at that point, once we release the teaser poster, you'll probably see the public will probably see a little bit more what Trevor actually looks like. Won't be a full reveal yet, but pretty close to it. So that's, like you said, we're filming on Monday 3rd. Hopefully by next week, so Monday the 10th onwards, sometime next week, we should be releasing the teaser to see how it goes.
Yeah.
And it's like, touching back on what we were talking about earlier, this is a proof of concept, and we really want as many people excited about what we're making as possible, because when we go and talk to Netflix or Stan or Paramount or whoever it is, we're going to talk to everybody about give us some money to make a 3-season television show. The more people who have looked at and commented on the teaser trailer and the poster reveal and all of that stuff, the better. So we're really trying to get as many people interested and looking as possible. So, we only shot it, I don't know, was it a month ago now? Not even a month ago. And the teaser's ready to go. And we want to keep this rolling and happening. We're trying to make some excitement happening. And again, if we had more people on board at this point, we'd be able to do more with the social media. There'd be a lot more happening. So follow Greener Pastures Moving Pictures on Instagram is probably the best place. Greener Pastures Moving Pictures, and that's the place where most of this will happen. Eventually, I'll probably stop doing it so much on my personal one and on the Greener Pastures comic one, so that it's got its own thing happening. So
Right. Yeah.
like that, share on that.
So that's a big plate that you have to keep on spinning while you're still doing comic book work and getting together the volume 1 trade paperback, because you can't have one without the other. You can't have Greener Pastures without having the comic. Yeah, don't look like that, Tim. That's
Hopefully, poor patient trade paperback supporters are now going, where is the trade paperback that should have been in my hands probably February?
I think they're understanding. I think they would be very understanding. They'd be a bum if they were to think that if they were to complain about any kind of lateness.
The trade paperback is first priority again now that we're in post-production for the film. But the film, unfortunately, again, because it's guerrilla filmmaking, ended up being top priority. And the weird thing is this, right? We're making a short film as proof of concept in the hopes that we can sell it to make a television show or a feature film. Neither of these things are going to make me a millionaire. We're not under any kind of misapprehension that I'm going to be a millionaire from this. This is not making The Watchmen or From Hell even. This is still only an indie Australian comic. So I don't think I'm ever going to be a multi-millionaire from it. But if I can make enough money from it that I don't have to do any other work, then we're getting Greener Pastures coming out on possibly a bi-monthly schedule, because I don't have to do any teaching, don't have to do any commissions, don't have to do any design work. Might even be able to get someone to help with running Kickstarters or whatever. So,
this is the eternal problem: the balance of running your own business and pushing all those carts up a mountain, while you have to sit quietly behind a drawing board and get creative and produce these pages of art as well. And it's a balancing act, and I think it's right across the board. I mean, most people don't have a short film or anything like that to try and keep spinning as a plate, but it's still a reflection of the kind of things that running a Kickstarter, for example, if you're not skilled with that and have those muscles worked enough to do a successful one, that affects again what you can do behind the drawing board. So it's a eternal question, I think, or a balance. The answers are there. Pulling at your time all the time.
I want to make sure people realize that the short film is a proof of concept, and then let's say we get a television show. It's not me abandoning comics. It's like, this is the way that I'll make enough money that I can make the comics, right? So
Comics is first love.
I don't know how many people make their comic in the hopes to get a movie made for that reason. Most of them want to get the movie made because that's where the money is, supposedly. But that is still only a means to an end for me to make comics, and not have to do other work. Hopefully that will be I've tried a couple of other things to get passive income happening and not.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I've been through a similar experience over the last couple of years of having the Jackaroo optioned, and that whole process of dealing with people who are wanting certain requirements from me was very educational, and it coalesced my thoughts as to how I wanted the Jackaroo to be treated. But I was surprised at how ambivalent I was about my involvement in that project. I was concerned about and had input about how they were going to treat it, treat the characters and treat the comic book, and as long as it was represented correctly. But then I was quite happy to let them do their thing, because I prefer to be behind the drawing board drawing, and that's my commitment moving forward, is to do the Jackaroo and to do new material for the Jackaroo. So I was surprised, much like when you were looking at Trevor and you were thinking, oh, well, yeah, this is all very, very normal. I was surprised at myself that even going through the whole option deal with producers and talking backwards and forwards about what they could do with the character, and I was surprised at how not excited or awestruck I was. It was just very much par for the course, because I'm still doing the comic. There's no changing. That could all fall over, but I'm still doing the comic. It's still there. Same with this short film, could fall over and not get released ever for whatever reason. You still got the comic.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing as well. The changes, I don't mind the changes in the film, because if you like the comic's still there, and we're still making the comic, and Colin is still Colin, and Caesar is still Caesar, and Russell is still the farmer, and et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah. I was on a panel at, was it SCAB? Yeah, I was on a panel at SCAB here in Sydney, at one of the new festivals here, comic festivals. And I wish I'd recorded it, because I said it really bluntly and I think very, very succinctly. That I want a television show made so I can make comics. It's not like I don't want to be a comic producer. It's like Dave Sim of Cerebus fame talked a lot about being given the option to pitch Cerebus as a television show, and he was great friends with at least Eastman, but maybe Eastman and Laird of Turtles, and just seeing like how much of their life just got devoured by what they had to do to get their stuff to screen, for film and cartoons, even when they're not really making it, but it's like, and Sim was saying, I don't want to do that. I want to make the comic. People buy the comic. I'll make a living from that. I'm not going to be sitting for days and days on end, reading contracts, signing contracts, negotiating, being in meetings for no good reason, so that all these people can get paid. And I totally that's 100% how it feels at the moment. That the short film, it's only a 15, maybe 20 minutes worth of film, is devoured me whole for like probably 6 months, and it took a lot of my time before that as well.
Going back to the beginning of our conversation, just to wind things up a little bit, this iteration, this short film, would it have been 5 years in the making from initial, let's try and do something?
More like 2 to 2.5. I'd have to open up emails.
No, that's okay. Just at a guess.
Time is elastic, especially when you include, if my eyes are going all over the place, that's because I'm opening up emails. It's elastic, especially when you include COVID in there. Like, I got no idea how long things happen, and I've probably got some mental block as well. So 2023, mid 2023, I've got emails where we're organising to meet with Meg, with MEG, about the prosthetic. So we would have been working on it well before that as well. So that's like the earliest email I've got specifically older somewhere. So yeah, that's over 2 years ago now, coming up to 2 years ago. So it's definitely well over 2 years. Anne-Marie's head for these kind of details, she could probably tell you, but yeah.
Okay, well, I think that answers a lot of what I think people will be curious about with this Greener Pastures project. And of course, you're still, beyond the trade paperback collection, you're still doing new material.
That's right, yeah. Number 9, 10, 11 are written, and they still take place in the 90s. So it's still young Trevor before we get to the older Trevor, which you so generously were publishing in Adventure Illustrated. So those 24 pages or so that were printed in Adventure Illustrated 1 and 2 will probably be issue 12, but I'm open to extending the 1990s period if we've got a good story to tell. But once we get into the 2020 stuff, that'll probably be the end of the 1990s.
Cool.
That's a really important reason to do a flashback, which, because all the 2020 stuff is basically written. All the 2020 script is written. Is that more than one copy? That must be more than one copy, I'm pretty sure.
That's the first issue.
Oh, well, let's talk about that some other time, because I've got a story.
Okay. Yeah.